What is the moment during your relationship that made you decide I will marry you? When he dropped everything to get me to my grandmother's when I was told that she might not live much longer. He refused to let me be alone that night and had me sleep at his place. The next morning he calls out of work, packs a bag, swings by my place to help me get my stuff, and then drives me 450 miles over a mountain in the middle of winter to let me see my grandma one more time. To see the amount of support he gave me told me that I had found the person who would always have my back. When he was reading to his son, my stepson, I was in the lounge so could hear him, and he put did all these zany and goofy voices for all the different characters, totally unabashed and just wanting to do a good job for his son. When I had my first panic attack in front of him and I thought, that's it. He's seen my crazy, and I've blown it. I ran to my car and cried. He came to my car, told me to move to the passenger seat, drove around until I was okay to be in public, and took me out for lunch, and to a bookstore. Redding calms me. I never knew what true loving consideration was before then. That feeling of real, unpretentious and unwavering love was just so much for me in that moment. The first time I had dinner with his family, we had just gotten done with a hike and his dad texted him to invite him and told him he was welcome to bring me. I was hot, sweaty from the hike, dressed like a hooch in a muscle tank and cut off shorts, and was like, do I have time to shower or change? And he said no, but if I was uncomfortable at all I should just kick him under the table and we could leave. It was so simple, but it never felt so thoroughly supported or accepted, and I just knew he was my person. 5 years later we're 2 months happily married. When I realized we had fun without having to go anywhere or do anything, it just all came so naturally. I already had a feeling, but when my BF met my mom for the first time, she and I are really close. When we got to her apartment and had some wine she started getting really chatty as she is wont to do. She started telling my boyfriend all about her dating problems and failed relationships. He was so patient and really listened to her, asking questions, offering input every now and then. It was slightly embarrassing because she was clearly tipsy, but I loved how natural it felt to be sitting there with my two favorite people in the world just chatting about life. I just remember getting up to go to the bathroom so I could have a small cry in private because I knew he was the one. We are getting married next fall. She stuck with me through cancer. I knew after the first month of treatment I would marry her. Edit. I told her about this comment blowing up, and she said what was I supposed to do? I love you. Thanks so much for all the amazing wishes and happiness sent our way. For anyone dealing with that or anything else, please make sure you talk to someone. It helps. I promise. Mid-conversation on our very first date we each said, I ducking hate sandals, in perfect unison. My grandmother was in the final moments of life from pretty severe lung cancer, bedridden, home health care, body getting pretty stiff already. That man changed her diapers, cleaned her, cared for her. I've never seen anyone just do the right thing without being asked, without questioning it, without hesitation. Any second thoughts I had about him vanished. Someone so inherently good from the core is so rare. His grandmother or yours? Either way is high quality. A random grandmother that neither of them knew. I took him to meet my parents, and he met my childhood kitty, who was very old by then, 19 or 20, and had always been kind of aloof and independent. Not a lap cat at all. He sat on the couch and patted it for her to jump up. She doesn't do that, I told him. And anyway she's too old to do it now. She jumped up onto his lap and settled down for him to pet her, purring loudly. We've been married for decades. He was in my kitchen in his underwear, looking through my cabinets. He pulled out a little plastic container of sunflower seeds and shook it like America. I realized just how much and how often he made me laugh. She randomly got up when we were watching TV and ran to one side of the room. I love you from here, she said as she ran to the other side of the room. Upon reaching the other wall she looked incredibly upset and looks at me. Oh. I ran out of room. I was pretty sure I wanted to and was debating proposing to her, but that was when I knew that I was going to marry her. The words "I love you from here" are inscribed on my wedding band. I came home from work and my dog and my roommate's dog had gotten into a nasty fight. My dog, smaller, got the worst of it and needed immediate attention. I called him and could barely get any words out between sobs. He drove over, picked us up, and took us to the emergency vet. He sat in the vet's office with me and held me when the vet said they needed to keep my girl overnight for observation. He also paid half the bill, which was pretty hefty. My dog is fine. She's now our dog and we call her our doctor. She would massage my arms and hands after a long day's work, and she made sure I never felt guilty that I fell asleep while she was doing it. She wholly and unconditionally cared for my well-being. RIP. A smaller example, because I'm not getting married anytime soon. But the guy I'm casually seeing right now has all sorts of these really sweet moments. Most recently, I told him that my mom had sent me a package. He asked what she had sent, and I told him she always sent peppermint cookies after Halloween as a get ready for Christmas type of thing. I opened the package and exclaimed how much I love peppermint cookies. I put them in the freezer and would grab some for us while we watched Netflix. 2 days later, I come home to a little package of peppermint cookies from him. My heart about exploded. It was really sweet and thoughtful. It's funny how sometimes you think you're asking too much, but really you're just asking the wrong person. The moment my dog I had throughout my abusive relationship, X, who was also abused and had issues with males, jumped onto his lap and gave him kisses without hesitation. It's like he was giving me the seal of approval. Been 4 years happily married. Edit. Onto. My cat has attacked every man I've brought home at least once, and always while they were sleeping, because he's a jerk. Not only has he never attacked my now fiancé, he greets him every day with headbutts and purrs. Sometimes when I wake up at night I catch Kitty draped across my fiancé purring in his sleep. Definitely feels like the cat's initial ambivalence was a seal of approval. At the time, we had this small 1-bed/1-bath apartment that was lakeside in the complex we lived. We always loved when the ducks came around because they chose a lake to have and raise ducklings before leaving for the cold weather. One morning, I woke up and came out to the living room to see her sitting outside on the back patio in her PJs, facing the lake, feeding the ducks, and humming to herself. Maybe it was the way the sunrise hit her and the water. Maybe it was her messy, but still adorable bedhead. But she looked like the most gorgeous thing I'd ever seen. Just the whole picture. I knew right then I wanted to marry this woman. 5 years after she literally kidnapped me to save my life, while I had an abscess in my jaw the size of a golf ball, she invited me to work in her coffee shop, knowing I was living in a van. I saved her from her ex trying to strangle her. 2 days after her ex went to jail, she came home, put her hand on my shoulder, and kissed me. Not a deep passionate kiss, but not a peck. Her son and daughter came home from school, and it was the first time they didn't immediately hide in their room. I cooked spicy peanut butter sesame noodles, and when I served dinner her daughter who hates spicy food took a bite. I knew after almost a decade of homelessness that I was home and this was my family. We have been married for 4 years now, and our son will be 2 in March. My stepson is about to graduate high school a year early and my stepdaughter is in her first year of middle school. My husband decided to marry me when I drove a motorcycle up a mountain pass in Colorado. Context: he's had bikes since he was 16, and I had always been a passenger. I decided to get my license, and 2 months later we drove across the US for 9 weeks. We drive dual sports, and he wanted to do some trails on the trip. We went up a mountain pass, Engineer Pass near LA, which was too difficult for me, to the point where he told me that we were going to turn back. I told him I would make it up that effing mountain if it was the last thing I did, and he realized in that moment I wasn't doing it for him. Rather I'm a badass out there for me. He proposed at the top of the mountain with a ring he fashioned out of wire, since he decided halfway up that this was it. It was perfect. TL. Doctor, husband proposed at the top of a mountain after he watched me fight my way up it on a motorcycle. Edit. Context. When she pointed out a typo in the crossword on April 28th, 2017, while we were laying in bed. It was 4th of July. I was on the rooftop in Berkeley and she told me she was going to marry me and that I didn't have a choice. Where are you, honey? He took me to have my wisdom teeth pulled and then stayed to take care of me once home. The medicine made me very lethargic for a few days, so he helped me change those foul smelling cotton packings as needed. That's the guy you marry. Dated a guy who took me to have my wisdom teeth out. He was sweet and patient with me as I bawled my eyes out when I got out of the dentist chair because I was so drugged cold and read the post-care instructions. And then he took all of my Vicodin so he could get high while I was stuck with just aspirin. That's the guy you don't marry. We were doing long distance and chatting on Skype and watching TV together. An ad came on the TV with a Britazilla bitching about a super expensive wedding dress not being good enough. I wrinkled my nose in disgust and said, when I get married it'll be in jeans and a white t-shirt. He said, sweet. I'll find a tuxedo shirt to match. After my heart started beating again, I put him on hold and yelled at my roommate that I was gonna marry this guy. 6 months later I did. We are getting close to our 8th anniversary. When my mother passed and she happened to be visiting, we were long distance and I couldn't think of anybody else I would rather be with to share my grief. That was 11 years ago. We've now been married 8 years and couldn't be happier. Also, to that extent, my life has vastly improved since I've been with her, and I hope she feels the same. Just the sheer effort, dropping everything if I had any issue arise, helping me without being asked when I lost my job, always being there, calling to check on my son, building a friendship with him, and eventually claiming him as his own / treating him as such. Always responding to messages / phone calls, even if all he could say was busy. You okay though? Reliability is lit, fam. It wasn't honeymoon phase BS either. This started as friends before dating and has continued on throughout our relationship. It is a beautiful part of who he is as a person, and damn, it makes me feel so cared for and loved and important. I'm going to marry this guy so hard. She bailed me out of jail. We were friends before dating, and I told him I was going to see NKOTB in concert. I've loved them since I was little, but grew up poor and never got to see them until I was in my 20s, and he brought me a comic book of this from the early 90s that he had stashed in his childhood bedroom. The following day, when he saw me at work, I texted my sister Waro. Might have met my soulmate. 8 years later, married for over 2. Parents of 2 pugs and a baby girl on the way. When we were getting to really know each other, when we first started dating, I had some really manipulative exes that destroyed my self-esteem and worth, and had been ghosted so many times. Regardless if it was a 2-month relationship or 2-year relationship, we had been talking about trust, as I was so worried he was gonna get annoyed of me and just ghost me like everyone else was just having an emotional moment. He told me that he knows I've been through some really hard stuff, but that he will wait for as long as it takes for me to learn to trust him, and that he will do whatever it takes to show me that I can trust him, and that his not running away has stolen my heart. And I knew right then that I'm going to marry him. We've planned to get married in 2 years as we need to sort visas and whatnot for me to move over with him permanently. When he helped carry my grandmother's casket at her funeral and held me for the next few days while I grieved, I also found out I was pregnant 2 days after we buried her, and his reaction was absolutely amazing. Edit. I can't believe the amount of trolls to my comment. What was his reaction? It was unplanned. And the fact that it happened how and when it did, he hugged me, screamed with joy, and immediately starting calling our immediate family members, and he was so excited he couldn't even get the words out. When I catch my BF treating our dog like a baby. There is no specific moment Just a lot of little moments. We have so much in common. We could be doing nothing. Yet as long as we are together we are having a good time. He has never judged me for my past. He doesn't want to hurt me or control me. Every moment I have to spend without him makes me sad. Unfortunately, he doesn't want to marry me. After I graduated college I decided to move to another state to pursue my ridiculous dream of becoming a zookeeper. We were high school sweethearts. But in my family everyone is divorced. Even 8 years of steady love from him hadn't convinced me that he wouldn't just decide to leave me one day. My own family leaves me. I'm not interesting or special. He told me not to worry. As soon as he was done with school he'd move to be with me. We'd see each other as much as possible until then. 2 years later he graduated and showed up on my doorstep. I never believed until that moment, 10 years into our relationship, that this could end happily. He's such a steady rock. Even my skittish heart had to admit this was forever. He has always been so wonderful and loving. He's funny, playful, sexy, nerdy, and can't keep anything clean to save his life. 14 years together, almost 3 married. And I'm no longer waiting with bated breath for the other shoe to drop. Being married to him is the easiest and most fun thing I've ever done. He made me laugh so hard that I actually peed myself. And then he wasn't weird about the fact that I peed myself, which was super gross and embarrassing. He should have made a big deal about that. This is the cutest shit. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.